Is your company's sweet spot and the type of startup in which you like to invest generally?
My company, Point Judith Capital, invests in early stage companies, usually not seed stage. So we like to be first institutional capital into the company.
Okay.
Usually we are post friends and family, and we like to invest in the Series A anywhere between $1 and $3 million in that first round of capital.
Okay. Is there a particular type of startup that you're more focused on?
Well, my expertise is healthcare. I've spent my career in the healthcare industry, which is medical device and healthcare IT.
Mm-hmm.
The firm, however, also has an IT practice, which is growing, and media and internet.
Brilliant. Thank you. Do you see many women entrepreneurs or startups sourcing venture capital coming to you?
No, it is interesting. I don't know why, and I haven't taken the time to do a full analysis of, what percent of the entrepreneurs that I've interacted with are female. However, I've been in the business now for over 10 years and looked at, thousands of companies, and certainly fewer than 10%. I would say probably 5% are female run and owned.
Okay, thank you. Do you think that women venture capitalists respond differently generally to women entrepreneurs sourcing venture in an effort not to appear weak and clubby to other venture capitalists? What complexities have you found in particular in the venture capital community as regards women?
I do think that there is a receptivity to female entrepreneurs. I mean,
Brilliant.
we as venture capitalists are focused on great technology, demonstrated ability to make the company successful.
Right.
So, and whether that team includes women or men, I think I don't want to say it's irrelevant, but I think
Yes.
we're certainly open to whoever's running the company. Now, having said that, the complexities are, I think there are two things that we need to keep in mind. Number one is, the venture capital business is still a very small cottage industry. Dominated by relationships and networks and a lot of informal interaction between fellow venture capitalists and also as among entrepreneurs. And, but by its nature, venture capital early stage is inefficient. And that's a good thing, right? I mean, that's how we're able to make outsized returns, because it's an inefficient market. Having said that, that inefficiency, I think, sometimes makes it a little harder for first-time entrepreneurs and women entrepreneurs to network, because the fact is, particularly on the East Coast, in the Boston area, the venture capital partnerships are dominated by men. And so when so much of what we do and so much of our deal sourcing and recruiting happens through networking and informal discussion and informal networking, and the venture capital world is so male-dominated, it kind of feeds on itself and perpetuates, more and more funding of companies by men. Now they're run by men. Now there have been efforts such as Springboard, which is an organization to promote and mentor female entrepreneurs, which have increased awareness of the issue, and I think that's been great. But, you could look at the numbers, and there are just very, very few female general partners in the venture capital community, again, particularly in the Boston area. I think it's a little bit different in Silicon Valley.
Right. Thank you. What were the challenges that you personally have faced in your career as a woman venture capitalist that men possibly wouldn't have?
Well, that's an interesting question. I have been fortunate and successful. I started Point Judith Capital, and that firm has flourished. So I I can't claim that I've been, particularly disadvantaged.
Right.
But having said that, I think, the venture capital industry in Boston epitomizes the old boy network. And, to the extent that you look different from the guys that are in that network, it's just a little bit harder. Okay. And so I've had to develop my own style and my own networking techniques to, be able to succeed in that environment. There are a handful of golf tournaments every summer, and I've never been to them, and I happen to know my partners go, and I happen to know that at most of them there aren't any women, or maybe a single female. And, that's not anyone's fault, and it's not intentionally discriminatory. It's just, like I said, the fact is, it is the old boy network. It's a hugely male-dominated world, so you need to figure out how you're going to network on your own to get access to the best entrepreneurs and the best talent.
You said that it was harder just by the nature of the fact that you were different. Could you clarify what harder was for you, like how you experienced that harder? What was it that you came up against?
It's hard for me to say because, like I said, I never felt as though, I couldn't get a meeting or, was kind of overtly treated differently or discriminated against. But, yourself what it might be like to be, for instance, I am frequently in a room with 20, 30, 40 guys.
Yes.
Or almost always around a board table with all men. Right. So, harder just means maybe having a different style and a different look and a different orientation than everybody else in the room. And I think that's just makes it a little bit more difficult.
Okay, thank you. What do you see as the difference between men and women entrepreneurs when they're sourcing venture and running a business?
It's a good question. I always hesitate to generalize. Let me give that some thought. I'm not sure that I have seen any particular differences as it relates to people's gender. Yep. I would say if I were to make a general comment, it relates to confidence. So I think what you will see often in any startup is there's a lot of unanswered questions. Startup companies are by their nature filled with risk and unknowns. Yes. How will the product sell? How will the market receive it? How will the product perform? Yes. And I would say that the female entrepreneur on average would be more open about the potential risks and deficiencies, and also less inclined to portray that everything is known and everything is confident and everything's going to work when in fact it won't. Where sometimes you'll see male entrepreneurs come in and maybe be a little overconfident or oversell. I would say, again, I don't like to generalize, but if I were to generalize a little, I think male entrepreneurs are a little bit more inclined to oversell and diminish the risk and be overly confident, whereas female entrepreneurs are less inclined to do that.
Okay, so possibly a little bit more pragmatic.
Yeah.
Thank you. What have you perceived to be, again, a generalisation, but what have you perceived to be the obstacles for women sourcing venture?
I just keep coming back to the fact that so much of what happens here is informal networks, and if you're outside of the club, it's just doubly harder. Okay. I'll tell you, most venture capitalists won't look at a deal if it comes to them over the transom. Right. So, for instance, every venture capital firm has a place on their website where it says, click here to submit a business plan. And almost none of them pay attention to the plans that come in, like that, where there's no existing relationship. Right. Same thing for cold calls. We venture capitalists get a ton of phone calls every week. Yes. Hi, I'm John Smith. I have a company. I'd like to come meet with you.
Yes.
those tend not to be given a lot of credibility. What is, giving credibility is, hi, hey, Gina, my friend has a new company. He's a successful guy. I want you to look at it. I think you ought to look at it.
Right.
So because, and also these companies, we don't deal with brokers or investment bankers. These are startup companies. It's all word of mouth.
Yes.
So anytime you have that situation where it's, a friend of a friend thinks you should look at it, but the other thing is people like to work with people they've already worked with.
Right.
So if an entrepreneur who has made us money in the past comes back to me with a new company, we're much more likely to look at and invest in that company.
Yes.
Which makes sense because we know the guy, we trust the guy, and we've made us money before.
Yes.
Having said that, all of those things create pretty significant barriers to newcomers, and frequently women are newcomers,
Yes.
right? Like the number of serial entrepreneurs for women is much smaller.
Yes.
So they're kind of, I don't know, like structural, systemic. The cards are stacked against
Mm-hmm.
folks who are new.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
And folks who are outside of the traditional networking, networks.
Yes.
So to the extent that that's women, that's a pretty significant hurdle.
Thank you.
I, for instance, in my practice, go out of my way to find and mentor female entrepreneurs. I just think that's important, and I don't think a lot of my male counterparts in the business are doing that. So therefore, it's something that I spend time doing. And I think over time, once there's more women in the venture capital side and more female entrepreneurs and more serial female entrepreneurs, over time it's going to get better.
Wow, you're brilliant. Thank you. It's great to know that you're mentoring. Years ago, a professor at La Trobe University in Melbourne, suggested to me that women seem to find it difficult to see their success as a result of their own talents, experience and work. They often felt it was a combination of good luck and other people offering them opportunities. In other words, they may find it harder to build their confidence and ego in business because they are so aware of the other people around them and their environment. In your experience, do you see this piece to be a contributing factor in the challenge for women sourcing venture? And if not, what are your thoughts about what holds women back from sourcing venture capital? And you have mentioned the networking piece already. Yeah.
I do see that. As I said, I think when you are the CEO of a startup, you need to portray confidence even though you don't have all the answers.
Yes.
Like I said, every startup, there's a lot which is unknown. But you need to portray that you are confident that you're going to figure out the answers and that you're not going to let anything stop you. You're going to climb over mountains, break through walls, do whatever it takes to get things done, and you have to exude that confidence. And whether you want to call that egotistical or not, women, I think, are more reluctant to do that, and therefore I think it hurts them. I think you need to sit down with the venture capitalist and say, this is my plan, this is my product, this is my team, and we're going to get it done, and nothing's going to stop us. And that extreme confidence, I think, can be very helpful in securing venture capital. I think, again, I don't want to overly generalize, but on balance, women might be more inclined to say, this is our plan and we think it's going to work, or this is our plan and, these are all the things wrong with it, kind of leading with their chin a little bit.
Yes.
And I think some of the, bravado, if you will,
Yes.
that guys bring to the table helps them to secure venture capital, particularly because 9 times out of 10, the person on the other side with the checkbook is a man and will relate to that.
Very good. Gina, thank you so much for your time today and for participating in this project, and I'm sure, as I found this incredibly valuable myself, that other women will too. Thank you.
I was happy to be part of it, and I think it's an important cause